My name is Natalie Brooks, and this morning, I was sipping coffee in my glass-walled office overlooking the dealership lot, my lot. The sunlight bounced off the polished hoods of cars lined in perfect rows, and I couldn't help but smile at how far I had come. The leather of my chair was cool against the back of my silk blouse, the kind of chair that makes you sit a little taller like you've earned it. Then my phone buzzed. The name on the screen froze me mid-sip. Richard Coleman. I hadn't heard from him in years, my old boss, the man who once stood in this very dealership and laughed at me because of the car I drove. The words still echo sometimes. Natalie, are you sure that tin can of yours can even make it to work? Back then, his mockery burned like acid. I would grip my steering wheel, knuckles white, trying to swallow the lump in my throat before walking inside. I was just a salesgirl with a clunky old Toyota and a heart full of dreams no one believed in. Especially not him. Now, Richard wanted a meeting. Here. In my office. The irony wasn't lost on me. I leaned back, letting the perfume I wore, a soft blend of vanilla and amber, remind me that I was no longer that humiliated girl. I was the owner. The woman in control. Still, my pulse quickened. This was more than business. This was unfinished history walking back into my life. I wasn't always the woman sitting in a high-rise office chair. A few years ago, I was 24, broke, and working as a junior sales associate at Coleman Motors, Richard Coleman's pride and joy. Every morning, I'd pull into the lot in my faded blue Toyota Corolla. The paint was peeling on the hood, and the driver's side mirror was held together with duct tape. It was the only car I could afford after college, and I treated it like gold, even though everyone else saw it as a joke. The worst day came on a Monday. I was running late, hair still damp from the shower, gripping the wheel as I prayed the engine wouldn't stall in front of everyone. Of course it did. Right in the middle of the lot. I remember the sound first, a sputter, then silence. Then the laughter. Coworkers nudging each other, smirking. But it was Richard's voice that cut the deepest. He strode out from the showroom, his designer suit crisp, his watch gleaming in the sun. He smirked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Brooks, are you trying to sell cars or scrap metal? Lord, customers are going to think we're running a junkyard. Heat rushed to my face. My throat closed, tears pricked behind my eyes. I tried to laugh it off, to joke, but my voice cracked. Richard shook his head, turned to the others, and said, "If you want to be taken seriously in this business, you better start by not driving that embarrassment onto my lot." That moment carved itself into my memory. I stood there, clutching my keys, so tightly the ridges dug into my palm. My car wasn't just transportation. It was freedom, it was survival. And he turned it into a punchline. That night, sitting alone in my small apartment, I stared at the silver keychain dangling from my car keys, a tiny compass my mom had given me when I left for college. She had said, "No matter where life takes you, you'll find your way." For the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. But when the tears dried, something shifted. I made myself a promise. Richard Coleman's laughter would never define me. One day, I'd walk back into that dealership, not as the girl with the rusty car, but as a woman who owned the very floor he once ruled. And that promise became my fuel. The morning after that humiliating day, I woke up with swollen eyes, but a sharper mind. If Richard wanted to laugh at my car, fine. I'd let him. But I wouldn't let him laugh at my future. I started small. Nights after work, I picked up shifts at a diner, pouring coffee for truckers and families just to scrape together extra savings. Weekends, I studied online business courses, the glow of my laptop keeping me awake until dawn. My friends went out drinking. I stayed in with spreadsheets and notebooks full of ideas. At first, it felt impossible. I had no connections, no money, and no one cheering me on. But the compass keychain on my Toyota keys kept me grounded. Every time I thought about quitting, I ran my thumb over it and whispered, "Find your way." The turning point came when I met Evelyn Moore, a retired dealership owner in her 60s. She came into the diner one late night, ordered black coffee, and noticed the business textbook on my counter. Instead of brushing me off, she asked, "What are you studying for?" That single question opened a door. Evelyn had spent her life fighting in a male-dominated industry, and she saw something in me. Hunger, maybe. She took me under her wing. She taught me things no textbook ever could. How to negotiate without blinking, how to read a customer's unspoken hesitation, how to close a deal with quiet confidence. Most importantly, she taught me that respect isn't given. It's built one choice at a time. But it wasn't easy. Banks laughed at my loan applications. Salespeople brushed me off. Even some family members told me I should be realistic. I kept Evelyn's words close. You don't need everyone's approval. You just need the right opportunity. So I hustled. I bought my first car at auction, a dented sedan, fixed it up with the help of a mechanic friend, and sold it for a small profit. Then another. Then another. Each sale was like a tiny victory, proof that I was more than Richard's cruel joke. The nights were brutal. My hands smelled like grease, my nails chipped from cleaning cars myself. But slowly the profits grew. One client led to another. By the time I had saved enough to lease a small lot, I realized something. I wasn't just flipping cars anymore. I was building a business. Social media became my secret weapon. I posted videos of transformations. Rusty clunkers turned into shining gems. People started following, then calling, then buying. My reputation spread. All the while, I stayed quiet online about the scale of my success. I posted modest updates, vague enough that Richard and my old coworkers would think I was just getting by. In truth, the lot grew. The sales multiplied. And piece by piece, I built something no one could laugh at. Years later, when the opportunity came to buy out a struggling dealership, I didn't hesitate. The sign above the building changed, the paperwork was signed, and suddenly I wasn't Natalie Brooks, the salesgirl anymore. I was Natalie Brooks, owner. The morning Richard Coleman walked into my dealership, the air seemed thicker than usual. My staff was buzzing. A new customer, they thought. They didn't realize the history standing on the other side of those glass doors. I watched from my office as Richard stepped inside. Same slick back hair, same tailored suit, though a little tighter around the waist now. His confidence was still there, but it didn't land the way it used to. I could see the strain in his smile, the faint edge of desperation. "Mr. Coleman is here to see you," my receptionist said, eyes wide. I smoothed the cuff of my blouse, slipped on my heels, and stood tall. "Send him in." When he entered, his eyes flicked around the office. The leather chairs, the framed awards on the wall, the view of the lot lined with luxury cars, all markers of success he never imagined I'd touch. For a moment, he didn't recognize me. Then his jaw tightened. "Natalie." "Richard." I gestured toward the chair across from me. "Have a seat." He sat, though uneasily, like the ground under him had shifted. "You've done well for yourself." I tilted my head, letting the silence stretch. I wanted him to feel the weight of every second, the reversal of power. "Yes," I said finally. "I have." His gaze landed on the dealership logo behind my desk, Brooks Automotive Group, and for the first time, I saw his composure crack. This place is yours?" he asked. "All of it." My voice was steady, smooth. "I own the dealership. Every car on that lot, every contract signed under this roof, it's mine." Richard leaned back, stunned. His hand gripped the armrest, knuckles pale. "You? The girl who drove the rusty Corolla?" I finished for him, a smile tugging at my lips. "Yes, that girl." The memory hung between us like smoke. His mocking laughter from years ago replayed in my mind, but now it didn't sting. It fueled me. "I don't understand," he muttered. "How did you? How did I?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. "By working harder than anyone ever believed I could. By saving when people told me I was wasting my time. By learning from mentors who respected me instead of tearing me down. That's how." For once, Richard had no quick retort, no smirk, no cutting remark. He sat in silence, staring at the polished surface of my desk like it held answers. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Well, I'll be honest, Natalie. I didn't come here to congratulate you. My dealership, it's failing. Sales are down, banks are circling." I thought maybe, he hesitated, pride fighting with need. Maybe you could help. The irony almost made me laugh. The man who once told me I was an embarrassment was now sitting in my office, asking for my hand. I let the moment linger, the power shift settling fully into place. He needed me, and he knew it. "Richard," I said softly, "when you mocked me for that car, you thought you were breaking me. But you were wrong. That humiliation? It built me. It put me behind this desk, and it put you in that chair." His eyes flickered, shame creeping into them. For the first time, Richard Coleman looked small. And I realized I had won long before he ever walked through my door. For a long moment, I just studied Richard. The same man who once strutted across this showroom like a king now sat across from me, shoulders heavy, his confidence cracked. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my legs. "You came here for help. Tell me, Richard, what exactly are you asking for?" He exhaled slowly, as if the words burned. "A partnership. Maybe a buy-in. I thought if we joined forces, we could both benefit." I almost smiled. Once upon a time, I would have begged for his approval. Now, he was asking for mine. "I'm not interested in a partnership," I said calmly. "But if you're serious about saving yourself, I could consider bringing you on under certain conditions." His brow furrowed. "Conditions?" "Yes." I folded my hands on the desk. "First, respect. Not just toward me, but toward every person who works under this roof. No cutting remarks, no cheap shots, no mocking someone's circumstances. If you want a place here, you check your arrogance at the door." His lips pressed together. "Second," I continued, "humility. You start from the ground up. No title, no office. You'll shadow my sales team, wash cars if you have to, learn how this business works from the bottom, like I once did." Richard shifted uncomfortably. "Natalie, that's non-negotiable." I cut in. "And finally, growth. You want a future here. You show me you've changed. Not for a week, not for a month, but consistently. If I see you slipping back into the man you used to be, you're out. Simple as that." Silence filled the room. My staff outside moved about, the muffled hum of phones and voices reminding me that this wasn't just my victory, it was the empire I'd built. Richard stared at me, eyes hard, as if deciding whether to argue. But he didn't. He simply nodded, the weight of pride bending his shoulders. "I understand." I stood, smoothing my skirt, and extended my hand. "Then those are the terms. Take them or leave them." His grip was hesitant, not the crushing handshake of the man I once knew. For the first time, it wasn't him asserting power, it was me choosing mercy. As he left my office, I watched him through the glass walls. To my employees, he was just another man walking out. But to me, he was proof that life had come full circle. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to mock him the way he once mocked me. My strength was in standing tall, setting boundaries, and knowing I had already won. The dealership was mine. The respect was mine. And now the conditions were mine too. Weeks passed after Richard's visit, and the dealership carried on as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Sales soared, employees thrived, and my leadership felt stronger than ever. But privately, I kept replaying that moment. The look on Richard's face when he realized the woman he once mocked now sat in the seat of power. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about me. I thought back to the girl who once sat in her rusty Corolla, hands shaking on the wheel, wondering if she would ever be more than a punchline. That girl deserved this moment. She deserved to know that every sleepless night, every rejection, every cruel laugh had been worth it. One evening, after everyone had left, I stayed behind in my office. The lot outside glowed under the soft hum of streetlights, rows of polished cars shining like a sea of stars. I reached into my bag and pulled out the keychain I still carried, the tiny silver compass my mother had given me. I turned it over in my palm, running my thumb along its worn edges. That compass had been with me through everything. The humiliation, the hustle, the late nights of doubt, the small wins that slowly built into something bigger. It was more than a trinket. It was a reminder that even when I felt lost, I was always capable of finding my way. And now, here I was. Richard had taken the first steps toward humility. My staff respected me not because of my title, but because of the way I led. And I had built a business on more than just selling cars. I had built it on resilience, respect, and grit. I set the compass on my desk, right next to the dealership's closing reports. For a long moment, I just sat there, breathing it in. The journey, the struggle, the quiet triumph. I smiled to myself. The past no longer hurt. It only fueled the fire. The car Richard mocked had carried me further than he ever imagined. It didn't just drive me to work. It drove me here, to ownership, to leadership, to freedom. And with a deep breath, I whispered the words that felt like the perfect ending to my story. The car he mocked drove me straight into the driver's seat of my own destiny.